Ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels? You know? Like you should be doing something,
Yeah.
but you're just stuck.
Yeah.
You're not alone. That's what we're diving into today.
It's like that feeling of, "Ugh, I know I need to, but then nothing happens."
Exactly. We're talking all about the reasons we get stuck and how to break free.
Yeah.
We're kind of digging deep today
Mhm.
into the psychology and emotions, even a little bit of brain science.
Yeah. Ooh, I love the brain
I
science.
know, right? So to help us out with all this, we've got some awesome sources. We've got these articles by Dr. Janet Field. She's a clinical psychologist who's done a ton of work on this.
And she gets really specific too, which I find really helpful.
Right. And then we'll also look at this piece called Pasted Text, which gives us a more general view of feeling stuck
Yeah.
and reconnecting with your purpose.
Right. So it's a bit more kind of philosophical, big picture stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then get this, we're even going to tap into a motivational talk by Robert Greene about finding your life's task.
Robert Greene, that's a great addition to the mix. His work on purpose and mastery is so insightful.
I know, right? So yeah, we're going to uncover all those hidden forces that keep us from moving forward. And hopefully by the end, you'll have a way clearer sense of direction and some actual tools to get unstuck.
Because knowing the why is only half the battle, right?
Yeah, so true. Okay, let's dive in back. Dr. Field talks about how this feeling of being stuck, it's not about being lazy. It's actually about this inability to make progress, even when you know you should be doing something different.
It's so frustrating because you're aware of it. You can see it.
Yeah.
You can't seem to shift out of it.
Yeah, it's like being in this weird limbo. You're not totally miserable,
Yeah.
but you're definitely not thriving either.
It's like Dr. Field calls it stuck in the meh.
Stuck in the meh. Oh my God, that is so accurate.
Right, it's where procrastination just loves to hang
Oh
out.
no, stuck in the meh, all too well.
But it can also show up as ambivalence, you know? Like you want to change, like you could go back and forth. You never fully commit.
I do that all the time.
It's like this constant mental tug of war.
Yeah, and that brings us to the big one, fear.
Ooh, yes. Fear, the elephant in the room.
Like fear of failure or what people will think, or even just fear of the unknown.
Right. Dr. Field says that fear is like this protective mechanism. It's our brain's way of keeping us safe.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it was essential back in the day, you know, when our ancestors were facing down saber-toothed tigers and all that.
So like we've inherited this caveman brain.
Exactly. We've got this caveman brain still on high alert, even though most of us aren't running from predators anymore.
But our brains haven't quite caught up.
Right. So that part of our brain that's responsible for threat detection,
Which is called,
the amygdala,
right, the amygdala.
it can get triggered by things that aren't actually life or death situations.
Like what?
Oh, you know, like public speaking
Right.
or asking someone out on a date.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But those things can trigger the same fear response as our ancestors felt when facing real danger.
So it's like a false alarm.
Totally. And when that happens, we experience what's called an amygdala hijack.
Amygdala hijack. That sounds intense.
It is. It's like our rational brain gets thrown offline and we're just reacting on pure emotion.
So it's like when you freeze up during a presentation,
Yeah.
even though you know your material cold.
Exactly. That's the amygdala hijack in action. And this hijack can show up in different ways. It often leads to those classic stress responses, fight, flight, or freeze.
Okay, I'm curious to break those down. So what does the fight response look like when it comes to feeling stuck?
Well, it's not about physical fighting. It's more like this resistance to change.
Okay.
Like you get defensive when someone gives you feedback, or you refuse to try a new approach.
So it's like digging in your heels.
Yeah, it's your brain trying to protect you. But it can also keep you super stuck in old patterns.
Right. And what about flight?
Flight is all about withdrawal and avoidance.
Okay.
So it might look like procrastination, or isolating yourself, or numbing out with distractions.
Like trying to outrun the problem.
Exactly. But we both know that rarely works.
And then there's freeze.
Ah, yes, freeze. This is the deer in the headlights feeling.
I know that feeling.
That paralysis that keeps you from taking any action at all.
Yeah. Like your brain just shuts down. Even making a simple decision feels impossible.
Yep. And there's actually one more stress response that's worth mentioning.
Okay, what is it?
It's called fawning. It's where you put other people's needs and expectations above your own.
Oh. So like saying yes to everything, even when you're already overwhelmed?
Exactly. It's a way of avoiding conflict and seeking approval. But it can lead to feeling trapped and resentful in the long run.
So we've got this ancient wiring that makes us prone to fear, which then leads to these stress responses that keep us stuck. But is fear the only culprit here?
It's a big one, but there are definitely other factors that contribute to feeling stuck. One is this idea of misaligned values. Pasted Text talks about this.
So, like, what does that actually mean, misaligned values?
It's when your actions don't match your core values.
Okay.
And that creates this inner conflict.
So it's like you value creativity and freedom, but you're stuck in a 9-to-5 job that feels soul-crushing.
Exactly. You're trying to force yourself into a mold that doesn't fit.
And this reminds me of Robert Greene's idea of the life's task.
Ooh.
He talks about how finding that unique path, the thing that truly lights you up, it's key to feeling fulfilled.
And when we're disconnected from that purpose, we're way more likely to feel stuck and uninspired.
Okay, so fear and misaligned values. Two big pieces of the puzzle.
Agreed. What else do we have?
Well, there's also that constant barrage of external noise. Pasted Text calls this out as a major culprit.
Oh, yeah. It's all the societal expectations. The comparison game on social media, the pressure to achieve certain things by a certain age.
What can be so overwhelming.
It's like everyone else has a roadmap for your life.
But none of them actually lead to where you want to go.
Right. And when we're constantly bombarded with these external messages, it becomes harder to hear our own inner voice.
And that leads to a lack of clarity about what we truly want.
You get it. So we've got fear, misaligned values, and this external noise all creating this fog that makes it hard to see the path forward.
No wonder we feel stuck.
It's a lot to untangle.
It is. But luckily, we've only just begun.
Stay with us as we keep diving into why we get stuck and what we can do to finally break free. Okay, so we've uncovered some of those big culprits behind feeling stuck, like fear, misaligned values, and all that external noise.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I feel like just knowing about it helps.
Absolutely. And now we're going to shift gears a bit and talk about some practical steps, things you can actually do to get unstuck.
Okay. Yes, please. Give us the tools. I'm ready to ditch this blah feeling and find some direction.
Well, remember Robert Greene's advice. The most important thing you can do is know who you are. He suggests something really interesting, actually.
Okay. What's that?
He says make 2 lists. One of things you love and one of things you absolutely hate.
Interesting. So it's like taking inventory of your internal landscape.
Yeah.
What energizes you versus what totally drains you.
Exactly. And don't overthink it. Just go with your gut. What activities make you lose track of time? What topics do you find yourself geeking out about? What makes you feel most alive? Those are the clues.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, what are those things you avoid at all costs? What makes you want to run for the hills?
Right. Notice those patterns. And you'll start to see what aligns with your true self and what totally doesn't.
This reminds me of when I was a kid, I was obsessed with storytelling. I'd spend hours writing stories and putting on plays with my friends.
It's awesome.
But somewhere along the way, I started listening to those external voices telling me to be practical, choose a safe career path.
Oh, yeah, I hear that. And did that path make you happy?
Not really. It took me years to realize I had strayed from what truly brought me joy.
So you had to reconnect with that inner child who loved to create.
Exactly. And it makes me wonder how many of us are out there ignoring those early signs of passion and interest.
I think a lot of us do. It's like we have to relearn how to listen to our inner voice. But how do we do that with so much noise coming from everywhere else?
It's tough.
Right? It is. But there are tools. One that I find helpful is Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences.
Multiple intelligences, I've heard of that. But remind me what it's all about.
So basically, it says that intelligence isn't just about book smarts or IQ. There are actually multiple ways of being intelligent, like linguistic, logical, mathematical, spatial, musical, bodily, kinesthetic.
Wait, so you're saying I could be intelligent in ways I never even considered?
Exactly. Maybe you're not a math whiz, but you have this incredible ability to connect with people and understand their emotions. That's a form of intelligence too.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So how does this relate to getting unstuck?
Well, by identifying your dominant intelligences, you can start to see how they might translate into different career paths, hobbies, or even just ways of approaching problems.
It's like you get a user manual for your brain.
Love that. And remember, this isn't about putting yourself in a box. It's just a framework to help you understand your natural inclinations.
Okay, so we've got our lists. We're exploring our multiple intelligences. We're starting to tune into that inner voice again. What's next?
Well, Pasted Text really emphasizes the importance of action. They say, you don't need to have it all figured out to take the first step.
I needed to hear that.
It's so true. Just start small. What's one tiny thing you can do today that aligns with your values or brings you a little bit closer to something you love?
So even something as simple as signing up for an online course, or reaching out to someone for advice, or just blocking out 30 minutes to work on that project you've been putting off.
Exactly. Those little steps build momentum, and before you know it, you're making real progress.
Okay, I could do that. But what about fear? I feel like that's always going to be lurking in the shadows.
It probably will, but remember, fear is often a signpost pointing toward growth.
Okay.
It means you're stretching yourself, stepping outside your comfort zone.
So instead of letting it paralyze me, I should try to see it as a good thing.
Exactly. Reframe it as excitement.
Like, woo, I'm about to do something that challenges me.
Yes, exactly. That shift in perspective can make a world of difference.
I'll try that.
Yeah.
And as I start taking action, I guess it's also important to limit that external noise.
Right. It's so important. It's about creating a space for your own voice to be heard. So maybe you unfollow those accounts on social media that make you feel bad. Or you set boundaries around how much news you consume.
It's like creating a mental sanctuary.
Exactly. And don't forget about self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yeah.
We touched on this before, but why is it so important?
Because it's so easy to beat ourselves up, especially when we're feeling stuck.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So be kind to yourself. Give yourself permission to make mistakes.
Like we're all works in progress.
We are. And when you approach yourself with compassion, it's so much easier to navigate those tough moments and stay committed to your journey.
This is all great stuff.
Yeah.
But what about those people who feel like they've tried everything and they're still stuck?
That's a really good question. And sometimes feeling stuck might be a sign of something deeper, like anxiety or depression.
So it's not always a DIY project.
Not always. There's no shame in seeking professional help. A therapist can provide support and tools to help you work through whatever's going on.
That's a good reminder. We don't have to do this alone.
We don't. And remember, you have the power within you to break free from this feeling. It's about understanding the causes, taking those small steps, and being kind to yourself along the way.
All right, we're back for our final segment on feeling stuck.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have, from those sneaky reasons why we get stuck to some really powerful tools for breaking free.
And now we want to bring it all together, distill it all into some key takeaways that can actually help you create a life that feels more aligned, more on purpose.
I love that. So what are those big takeaways? What should our listeners really remember as they move forward on this journey?
Well, the first thing is just remembering that feeling stuck is universal. You're not alone in this. We all face challenges, setbacks, moments of doubt. The difference is how we respond to those feelings.
So it's not about avoiding them altogether.
Not at all. It's about learning to navigate them in a way that empowers you to move forward.
And recognizing that a lot of those feelings come from fear.
Absolutely. But fear doesn't have to be the enemy.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Pasted Text has this quote that really stuck with me. It says, "Getting unstuck starts with understanding that you don't need to have it all figured out to take the first step."
Oh, that's a good one. It's so true. We don't need to wait for perfect clarity or a foolproof plan. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is just start moving, even if we're not 100% sure where we're going.
It's like trusting that the path will reveal itself as we go.
Exactly. You'll learn and adjust along the way.
And as we're taking those steps, it's important to keep those core values front and center.
Right. Absolutely. Making choices that align with what truly matters to you, not what you think you should be doing or what others expect of you.
It's about creating a life that feels authentic.
Yes, and align. A life that reflects your unique values and aspirations.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be these huge overnight changes either.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
Start small. What's one little step you can take today that brings you a little closer to that vision?
Maybe it's having a difficult conversation, setting a boundary, or just committing to spending 30 minutes a day on a passion project.
All of those things count. It's about building momentum through small, consistent actions.
I love that. Can we talk about self-compassion again?
Yes, of course. It's so important, especially when we're feeling stuck. It's easy to get down on ourselves.
It's so easy.
So remember to be kind to yourself. Give yourself permission to mess up.
We're all a work in progress.
Exactly. And when you approach yourself with that kindness, it makes it so much easier to navigate those tough parts and stay committed to your journey.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
It has.
But I know our listeners are probably thinking, okay, what now? What's the one thing we want them to do after listening to this?
Well, Pasted Text ends with a beautiful call to action. They say, reflect on one thing that makes you feel most alive. What small step can you take today to move closer to that?
I love that. It's an invitation to reconnect with that spark, that joy and purpose that might have gotten buried under all the fear and obligation.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone. Share your thoughts, your insights, your struggles, your triumphs in the comments below. Let's create a community of support as we all figure this out together.
I love that idea. We believe in you. You have the power to create a life that's both fulfilling and meaningful. So go out there and make it happen.
And as always, before we sign off, we want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. If fear is so often at the root of feeling stuck, what would it look like to befriend your fear instead of fighting it?
It's a good one. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into feeling stuck. We'll be back soon with more explorations into the power of human potential. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.